This is a living rock cactus. You can only find it in the Chihuahuan Desert, of which Big Bend National Park lies at the heart. If you were hiking in Big Bend, you probably wouldn't even notice this diminutive little succulent. Unlike most cacti, it doesn't have any spines, so for defense, it uses camouflage and grows close to the ground to keep a low profile. That's kind of why it's called a living rock cactus. It basically just looks like a rock and blends into the landscape. You have to know what you're looking for with this species, and it takes a well-trained eye to spot them, which is why it's all the more remarkable that they're being stolen. That's right, this tiny little cactus, which for millennia has made its living on being unnoticeable, is being stolen from Big Bend National Park. In fact, it's being stolen from public lands across the Chihuahuan Desert, all in an effort to feed the rapidly growing black market for cacti. It sounds weird, I know. I mean, you don't really think of cactus when I say the words black market. You probably think about drugs or wildlife or even art. But sure enough, it exists, and it's only growing bigger. Like most black markets, it thrives on rarity. The rarer, the better, and the living rock cactus is just about as rare as they come. Like I said, you can only find them in the Chihuahuan Desert, and in the United States, you can really only find them in and around Big Bend National Park. That rarity not only makes them a hot commodity on the black market, but it also means they fetch a pretty penny as well. A single cactus plant can go for between $500 and $1,000. The Fish and Wildlife Service estimated that in just 6 months, a single poacher could make more than $300,000 selling living rock cacti illegally. The same investigation that produced that figure estimated that between 10 and 15,000 plants were stolen, and that was only among 4 poachers. There's no telling the amount of living rock cacti that have been taken overall. These poachers typically send the cacti to Europe and Asia, where they are non-native and the allure of a rare and exotic plant drives up the demand. Collectors are drawn to the ruggedness of the living rock cactus. Its allure is derived from the fact that if it survived in such harsh conditions as the Chihuahuan Desert, it's a must-have for their collection. Even more so if the plant was taken from a national park directly. That makes it extra special. So I bet you're wondering then, how is all of this possible? Are living rock cacti not endangered? Are they not protected? Is it not illegal to sell them? The answer to that is, complicated. First of all, it's flat out illegal to remove plants, including cacti, from federal public lands, period. That means living rock cacti in Big Bend National Park are protected through at least a portion of their range. But what about the Endangered Species Act? That similar law should come into play in cases like this one, right? Cases where a rare or threatened species is at risk? Not quite. As of November 2021, the living rock cactus is not listed under the Endangered Species Act. What about international law? These cacti are crossing international borders, so surely there are some protections in place there. For that, you would be correct. Living rock cacti are listed under the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, known as CITES, as an Appendix 1 species, which deals with plants and animals that are threatened with extinction and are illegal to traffic internationally without a permit. Unfortunately though, while CITES is a legally binding treaty, enforcement is left up to individual countries, meaning each country has different enforcement regulations when it comes to protecting the living rock. Things often fall through the cracks. And to top it all off, it isn't illegal to buy and sell a living rock cactus domestically within the United States, as long as it was harvested with permission on private land. The legal market for cacti in the United States is now valued at more than $10 million. This patchwork of rules and regulations mean enforcement is heavily inconsistent when it comes to protecting the living rock cactus. Within the United States, you can buy and sell them, as long as they haven't been harvested on public land. Across international borders, you can't buy and sell whole plants, but you can buy and sell the seeds. And because each country has different rules, you may or may not even get in trouble. Meanwhile, the black market demand for these and other cacti is incredibly high. Collectors view these species as rugged and foreign and will do whatever it takes to ensure they have it in their collection, a fact that makes the inconsistent lattice of regulation that much more of an issue. So, what is Big Bend losing when the living rock cactus is stolen from within its borders? First off, these cacti don't exist in a vacuum. They are part of a complex, fragile, and interconnected desert ecosystem. The Chihuahuan Desert, where these cacti grow, is one of the most biodiverse deserts on Earth, containing roughly a quarter of the world's known desert species. In a land as harsh and unforgiving as a desert, every piece of that ecosystem matters. Life is already hard enough to come by, and removing even one piece of this puzzle could have devastating consequences. For one thing, even by cactus standards, the living rock is incredibly slow growing. It can take decades for them to grow to just the size of the palm of your hand, and just as long for them to start blooming. This is because they have an incredible capacity for storing and conserving water, even more so than other cacti. In times of extreme drought, they can shrivel up to very small sizes and wait until the next time they receive that vital dose of water. This is part of the reason poaching is so prevalent for this species, though. Collectors don't want to wait decades to grow a living rock from seed, so instead they pay top dollar for ones that have already done so out in the desert. But removing these elder cacti is seriously threatening the future of this species. Because they take so long to bloom, removing the more senior living rock means you're removing that plant's ability to reproduce. And when this is done on a large enough scale, such as what we're seeing in the Big Bend region, it's easy to imagine a future where living rock cactus die out. Already, it could take centuries for living rock populations to fully recover. But remember, they don't exist in a vacuum. So losing the living rock means losing other things too. Living rock cacti are pollinated by bees who feed on the nectar their flowers produce. In turn, those bees are eaten by other desert critters, who are eaten by still others, all the way up the food chain. Breaking a link in that chain seriously disrupts an already fragile ecosystem. And if you wanted some more bad news, unfortunately I can give you that too. Black market demand isn't limited to living rock cacti. All over the American Southwest and Mexico, species like ocotillo, yucca, and even the iconic saguaro are being poached to satiate the ever-increasing demand for cacti. Some estimates place up to a third of cactus species at risk of extinction, up there with the likes of amphibians and corals as some of the most threatened taxonomic groups in the world. Unlike those groups though, cacti are threatened mainly through illegal removal of specimens. But I'm not going to leave you on a sour note here. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know I like to tell conservation success stories. And while this isn't one yet, there is valuable work being done to ensure that it becomes one. For one, enforcement, at least in the US, is starting to play a bigger role. One investigation involved a collaboration between the Fish and Wildlife Service, the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, the US Postal Service, the National Park Service, the Texas Department of Parks and Wildlife, and Sul-Ross State University. That's the sort of collaboration we'll need to make those disparate regulations a bit more consistent. Other efforts, though, are focused on the painstaking process of growing living rock cacti from seed. Despite the decades it takes to do so, growers are doing their part to ensure the living rock is around for future generations to see. And finally, one of the keys to this whole project is education. Helping people understand that the cactus they're buying isn't simply a decoration for their home, that it's part of a larger ecosystem and could potentially have been taken illegally. This sort of work helps to solve the problem from the bottom up, as knowledgeable collectors will turn down cacti they know are threatened or suspect they have been taken illegally. They can also help educate other collectors, and little by little, word begins to spread about the importance of protecting these cacti. With any luck, all of these efforts will add up, and slowly but surely, maybe we'll see the recovery of the living rock cactus. And as always, if you want to learn more about the world's protected places, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps me bring more park stories like this one to more people. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.